Good morning again. I know we have a lot of students at home today. Make sure that you're getting your work done. Those that might get quarantined in the next couple of weeks, let's make sure we stay up on all of our work. You can find everything in Google Classroom and in the agenda. If I change something, I go back and change the agenda. So today you can see we're doing the Collaborate and Compare lesson 3.13. You're going to complete the activity in Ed as well as the chart that I attached in Google Classroom comparing the two texts. So let's go over how to do that. But first, I want to remind you about your poetry assignment. So I'm going to go back to Google Classroom. I have not assigned today's assignment yet. I'm still working on it a little bit. But if we go back to yesterday's assignment, here's where you write your poem. Okay, so here's the screencast telling you everything that you needed to do, as well as everything that you needed to do for the seventh man and Carrie, because some of those lessons were shortened. So this tells you everything that you need to know for the past week or so. And then this is the document where you're going to type in your poem and then just click turn in on that assignment. But the good thing about attaching this is even if you did forget to submit it, I would still be able to see it. But go ahead and submit it, okay? So those of you that are in class today, you have a few minutes in class, 15 or 20 minutes to work on this, and then I want you to get started on today's lesson. So let's talk about what today's lesson is. So you go to the Collaborate and Compare in Google Classroom and just read this part at the top about how to compare texts. Okay, I'm not going to read that to you right now. You're going to do this chart, but I made a new one for you in a Google Doc because when you type in here, you can type a lot, but it kind of, when you go to that third line, then things start disappearing. It moves up and you can't see it all at one time. So these need to be, you need to be able to write more than just what you can see in these boxes. So this chart is in Google Classroom, and you can type as much into that, and the boxes will, you guys know how this works, but the boxes will expand as you write more. So what you're going to do is compare the two texts. What is the setting of each one? Time and place. What are the key events that happened? There weren't many events in Carrie. There's pretty much one. Let me fix this. And then there are several key events in the seventh man. So tell in well, you don't even have to do it in chronological order, but what's the series of events that happened in the seventh man? The speaker's or narrator's thoughts. I want you to give me one or two examples of the speaker or the narrator's thoughts from the seventh man and from Carrie. What were they thinking? And then what is the theme or more than one theme of the seventh man, and what is a theme of Carrie? If you read the Collaborate and Compare page, it kind of tells you what the theme is on there. And then I want you to give me an example of symbolism, at least one from both texts. So something in the seventh man that symbolizes something else, and what does it symbolize? And in Carrie, what does something that is symbolic, and what does it symbolize? So for instance, water is a huge symbol in both of these, but what does the water symbolize? What is the deeper, pardon the pun, what is the deeper meaning of the water in the lives of these people? Think about their cultural differences between each author. Remember that the author of The Seventh Man is Japanese. He lives in Japan, an island nation where, he's surrounded by water his whole life. Water is a very important part of their culture. Um, a lot of what they eat comes from the sea. They're used to not hurricanes. What was it called in The Seventh Man? Typhoon? No, not a tsunami. Wasn't it a typhoon? Yeah. Okay. So anyway, it's kind of like a hurricane, but it happens in the Pacific Ocean. They call it a typhoon. And then the author of Carrie is a Native American and has cultural connections to water there as well. Okay, so you might want to go back and look at those texts to decide what you want to fill in your chart with, but these boxes need to be completely filled in, maybe 2 or 3 sentences for each one, okay? And that's going to be attached to your Google Classroom assignment. So when you get through with this, you are going to turn that in as well, so that I will know that you're finished with this chart. Now, what else do you do on the collaborate and compare? So you don't do this because you're doing that here instead. You're going to answer these 4 questions. So let's go over those 4 questions real quickly, and then I'll end the video. So what themes do you discover in both The Seventh Man and Carrie? How do the author's attitudes towards those themes differ? So what are some common themes, but how are the author's attitudes towards them different? Okay, so you'll use some of the information off your chart to answer that question. Both authors use symbolism. Choose a symbol from each text and evaluate how the author uses it to enrich the text. So you're going to get this off of your chart as well, but you're going to write it out in an essay question format, okay? How did creating mental images help you understand both text and cite examples from each text when explaining? So find a place in The Seventh Man. I would think about the actual incident of the big wave coming and taking Kay away. That really created a mental image. I don't see how you could read that without getting that image in your mind. And that's what good writers do, is create images in our mind so that we can see what they're describing. And that's what you're supposed to be doing in your poem as well. And then what's the mental image from, there's several from each, but from Carrie, from the poem, find a mental image and then cite examples from each text. Remember, you're comparing, so we're talking about both texts, not just one. And then number 4, reread the biographies of Murakami and Hogan, that's the authors. How might their cultural backgrounds, Japanese and Native American respectively, or the geography, have shaped their attitudes towards the topic of nature? So instead of doing all 4 of these questions, you're going to choose 2. I wanted to go through all 4 of them with you, but I want you to choose 2 of these. So then you don't have to do this bottom part. You don't have to do the create and share. So let's just go back over it very briefly. You're going to find this in Google Classroom and you're going to fill it out. You're going to read the top part of this so that you can know what you're supposed to be doing when comparing the text. You're going to skip this and you're going to choose 2 of these questions to do. All right, if you have any questions, let me know. I'll be happy to help. Those of you that are at home quarantine or ill, or just remote learners, if you want to have a video conference with me and get some help, talk through some things, I'm available at certain times during the day. You can make an appointment. So make sure you're getting your work done or letting me know if there's any issues with that. All right, I'll talk to you later.